Well, everyone, it is Friday. Welcome to Friday in 12:15. So delighted to have you join us today for Accelerate to Adapt, Growing in the Flow of Work. Pleased to have you here. We're going to go ahead and get started because 30 minutes will go by quickly, as we know. But I'd like to welcome you today, and I'd like to say shout out to Sandra. How are you today, Sandra?
I'm doing great. So glad it's Friday. A little warm here in Indiana, but
Yeah,
we'll
boy,
survive.
it's a hot one. It's a hot one. I'm sure we're all experiencing that. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Just a shout out to everybody that's joining us. If you'd like to say hello, where you're from in the comments, you're welcome to. If not, hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of lunch, taking care of yourself, fueling up your tank for the few work hours still left ahead of you. But so pleased that you made the commitment to invest in yourself. We're going to talk a little bit about, if this is your first time, to introduce why we're here, what it is we're looking to get accomplished. But to start off strong, the mission that you've accepted today, whether you fully realize it or not, in our suite of services, we're going to go into what we'll call an introductory course or overview, because it's a deep topic on unlocking the hidden power of adaptability. And it's an introduction to AQ, which is the adaptability quotient. And you'll hear this again, but just to really get your attention, is that something that I've heard recently, and it stems from the book, The Adaptation Advantage by Heather McGowan and Chris Shipley. It's really, really influenced me in a heavy way. But how about this? The slowest rate of change you will experience for the rest of your life is today. Tomorrow, it'll be a little faster. The next day, even still a little faster. So that's not meant to scare anybody, but it is a wake-up call. And the fact that you're here is wonderful. That we'll be able to create some insight and some thoughts that you might be able to apply today. Because at the end of the day, a fast fact here, IBM Skills Gap report has stated there's been a 120% increase in the demand for adaptability skills. So that's critical. All right, let's jump right in.
I'm excited for today, Pete.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's going to go fast. Great. So we're on episode number 2. We had our kickoff event last week, and it was great to have a global audience. Yes, people from other countries, and I know several of you from my distant past and former roles. So great to reconnect, because what I want to say, yes, we're here for our professional growth, but we're also building a community. People that have an interest in growing professionally, and we're creating yet another touch point for us to interact in a way that probably goes outside our own networks and outside of the traditional space, which we think about how we learn. We'll talk more about it in just a minute. But Sandra, you want to kind of walk us through the agenda today?
Yeah, well, we're kind of building our rituals together as we do this, do our sessions each week. And just a reminder that we have tried to select the best little nuggets from the things that Pete and I bring to the table, and highlight those things in just a 30-minute window. And so today's 30-minute window, we are going to make sure that you have a good introduction of the AQ, Adaptability Quotient. And Pete's going to share about that. He's certified in this, and I have even done the assessment to understand my AQ, and we'll give you some guiding questions to think about, maybe over the weekend or when you get back to work on Monday, and then challenge you to take some action and do some things on Monday. So we'll walk through that today, and thank you for being part of this and growing and developing with us.
Great. Well, Sandra, since you have the microphone, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am a lifelong learner / educator, and I have a doctorate in educational leadership, but that has allowed me to be in all kinds of business organizations, groups, and then in the last 4 to 5 years, really getting into what machine learning, artificial intelligence is doing for us. And what's really been interesting to me is that we are all in this place of having to learn. So I'm just trying to bring my interest and experience and expertise in learning to all these changes that we're having to go through together.
Great. Thanks, Sandra. I'll just introduce myself briefly. I am a community builder. I am an advocate for growth in adult learning. I'm a coach and walking this path with you. So after 35 years in corporate life, as I thought about the final third of my career, I really felt motivated to take all the things that I had learned through success and failure, certainly fueling my own curiosity and continued growth, and bring that back to people that also value fulfillment at work and at life, in life. So with that, let's go a little bit deeper. So we, Sandra and I, through our collaboration over the past really year and since we've known each other, is meant to practice what we preach. So how can we be innovative? How can we bring this idea to the stage here on LinkedIn Live? In our area of expertise centered around these four areas. So innovation, how you proactively drive the future that you want. Change leadership, for a change that comes your way. How do you manage it effectively as an individual, as a team, or within an organization? Of course, throughout all of that is the adaptability quotient, how that fits as the critical new insight to how good we are, how strong we are on that critical skill, and where there's opportunities for growth. And of course, AI literacy. It brings all this to the table in a way that's so real. And to be honest, personally, I am so pleased to be alive in life at this stage in time for all the opportunities, yes, and challenges that it brings to the table. But Sandra, why don't you explain to our folks here a little bit about the approach from Friday into Monday?
Yeah, so again, we are highlighting our best little nuggets, right? From the content that we have been able to put together and that we offer organizations and individuals. And so sharing this with you because we know that that setting up that process, which we want to do and are happy to do, but we know that this matters now, and we're trying to get some meaningful learning, professional development out there now. So we really care about this topic, and we care about you, and we want to do. So what we decided to do is just have a 30-minute session on Friday. Just a little bit of time for yourself. We'll like we have on the slide here, seed your mind, plant some seeds. Over the weekend, you may or may not think about it at all. That's okay, because our brains do fantastic work at consolidating information, and sometimes you just have to be out of your normal environment to let your brain kind of put things together. When you get back to work on Monday, we hope that you're motivated and you have something that you feel like you can work on or get started on. And of course, for those of you who are listening and catching up, whatever your sequence is, do the same thing, right? Learn a little something, let it kind of marinate, and then act on it. So, and always remember that we're here to help you take that farther, or to expand your learning and into more than just these little 30 minutes.
Wonderful, Sandra. I think for me, the takeaway, the only direction is forward. All right, so let's do that. Let's go forward. So at the heart of this, I'm going to share with you the power of the adaptability assessment. So yes, it's another assessment. And someone said to me to say, Pete, I hear people talk about assessment fatigue. There's so many out there, and I recognize that for sure. I'm well schooled in a whole variety of assessments, but I want to go back to, why do we even consider an assessment in our personal growth journey? So the company I formed, Omni Touchpoint, was inspired by an artifact that's 500 years old. And a touchstone is a stone that a jeweler would take a precious metal and rub it across in order to determine the quality of the mark, or the mark that it made, which would indicate the quality of the precious metal they were evaluating. And for me, a little philosophical, I admit, when we rub up against these assessments or touchstones, it gives us a framework to be able to say, where are we in comparison to this? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Are we high or are we low? And with that self-reflection, we've got the ability to stimulate how big is that gap? Is it where we want to be? And more importantly, what could and should I do about that? So with that, maybe a little bit of useless fact you may share at a cocktail party or a social event this weekend. Let's take it a step further. So, Sandra, why would you question your relationship with anything in life?
You know, there's a famous TV host who would say, "How's that working for you?"
Mm,
And so I think anytime I've questioned my relationship with something, someone, some, habit, uh, it's been, is this really working for me? It hasn't been working for me. Um, so I can do specifics, but we probably need to keep moving on with time. So, but
yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
just something hasn't been working right.
Hopefully you can relate to countless examples where it's important to do that. I'll just throw out a quick soundbite. In the pursuit of productivity and efficiency, I questioned my relationship with typing. I spent a lot of time crafting messages, emails, and I'm sure you do too. Well, my discovery brought me to is the fact with AI today, and not only just something that's been around for a while, but voice to text, I no longer type emails. I speak in natural language, the point I'm trying to convey, with all the bad grammar, all the misspellings that come with that. But then I do a quick AI polish at the end, makes it nice. I look to make sure it reflects it. Maybe I adjust it a little bit, but boom, then I hit send. Ladies and gentlemen, I've increased my productivity probably by 10 to 15% every week, which means I can get more done, or I can leave the office with more peace of mind, knowing I can then play, be with my family, and pursue my hobbies because I've been more efficient. So think about where you might want to question your relationship in any particular area of your life. But today I'm going to ask you to question your relationship with change. And so I teed this up. I'll say it again. The slowest rate of change you will experience for the rest of your life is today. And that's prophetic. Now, you've heard of the frog, how do you boil a frog? You got boiling water, you put the frog in it, she knows it's hot. They jump out. However, if that temperature slowly rises and changes over time, they don't notice the environment changing. And that's how you cook a frog if you want to do that without them jumping out. Now, that's kind of an interesting metaphor. Hopefully, you've heard it before and you receive it well. But what was really going on, whether we realize it or not, is that there are factors globally within our country, within your town, within even in your neighborhood, to use that geography example, that the temperature is rising. I came across this uncertainty index, and it's the World Economic Policy that looks at it globally and by country. And this is specific to the US, and it's updated on us every week. And going back to 2000, we sort of see we're clipping along. Look where we are today, a huge spike. Now, you know this because you feel it. But to look at this, to realize the spike that has been increasing over time, it is material. I'm going to give you another one as we're going to transfer to an example of the growth of semiconductors over a period of time from 1971 to 2021. It goes from under 10,000 to 10 billion. So again, you've got your cell phone, and you've always known that your cell phone is a valuable tool and you use it. But let's talk about the image I want to tee up here is change in the palm of your hand. So how do you go from the growth of silicone to yourself, and how does that affect you? And what is the exponential explosive growth of semiconductors over time relate to things that are moving fast? There was back in the 70s, what was called the Moore's Law, in which they predicted the future view was predicting the increase of change over time. 1971, there were basically about 2,300 semiconductors. Fast forward to 2024, over 10 billion, 100 billion, excuse me, huge number. Not to mention the cost per unit of a semiconductor transistor has decreased by a factor of 100 million. Those are huge numbers. So to land the plane on this, semiconductors are evolving exponentially. Machines are keeping up. Are we keeping up with the pace of change? And of course, I'm going to tie this back to adaptability and the notion of change. So, Sandra, what word jumps out to you here in this range of emotions? This was a live poll I presented in Chicago at a change leadership conference. And these are people that are skilled and qualified to drive change in the organization. I asked them, what emotions do they feel when they go through change? This is a collection, a word cloud of their results. Sandra, what jumps out to you here?
Yeah, well, what's really interesting is I think I could relate absolutely to the ones that are highlighted there. So I'm probably most excited. Biggest words have the most votes, uh, and but then also anxious, curious, overwhelmed, hopeful. I can relate to all of that. I did think it was funny that there was like sorcery, which which I can also relate to, right? So I think even young children are feeling it right now. Like things are changing so fast. If your kids are in traditional school calendars, then they're coming back to things that are changing, so we are just in this and it doesn't all make sense. Some of it does feel like sorcery because we don't understand it, or magical, I guess. So I
Yeah,
can relate to all of that, absolutely. And I like that you pointed out these are change leaders. These aren't
yeah,
just, these are people who uh, uh, are in this work all the time. So I
yeah.
don't feel alone.
Regardless of our title or our training or upbringing, as humans, we're all allowed to experience the full range of emotions for I think, the right reasons, and they're healthy. They're there for a particular reason. But even if you're starting to begin to question your relationship with change, get a sense of where that change feels positive and exciting or negative and heavy is the first step of awareness that allows us to go further. Because at the end of the day, we can wake up every day and have a choice. Can't control what happens. Many times we have to react. If you want to get ahead of that, that's what they call innovation. We'll talk about that in another episode. But you have the ability to say, I need to survive this, or I'm going to thrive in it. Two very different paths, but you still get a chance to make that choice. And as we peel the onion here, I want to put this in context. So many of you know that, IQ has been around for so many years. I don't even know what mine is. Shame on me, but I've gotten through life just okay. So I'm assuming it's okay. But IQ is what you know, and it's been critical for problem solving. EQ, which has continued to gain momentum over the years, it's our ability to regulate emotions, understand, engage with others in social environments. That's critical for managing relationships. These two measures have served us well for a time in which change was pretty much, within check. You look at that chart, there was some growth, but slowly over time. But now we're in a volatile environment where the change, the temperature is so hot. AQ is that additional Q that I believe is essential and critical for individuals, teams, and entire organizations to wake up and recognize, because this is a matter of staying relevant in disruption. Whether you're
Yeah.
forced down a survival path or the thriving path, it's something that needs to be and should be considered. Sandra?
Well, I just wanted to point out that of these three, AQ is still very human. So, and what I mean by that are that the best AI models are roughly 10 points. This is like 120 is the IQ measure of like some of the best reasoning AI models that are out there. But within the next 2 years, they expect it to be higher than any human that has ever lived, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Albert Einstein was a 130. Um, and that's very valuable to us, but it changes our IQ value. And then also EQ is something that's really important for us, but it can also be replicated by the AI. It's getting better at that emotional intelligence. And so I just think more and more the adaptability quotient becomes our our ability to adapt becomes one of our human superpowers that keeps us in the game.
Thanks, Sandra. You continue to be my AI advocate and inspirer. To me, that just gives us more permission to be human as some of these other tasks get automated and we can outsource.
That's right.
So to point being, it's not going away. All right. So many of you know the word adaptability. It's not uncommon, but a formal definition, adaptability is the capacity to adjust one's thoughts and behaviors to effectively respond to uncertainty, new information, or changed circumstances. I love the Mike Tyson quote that it's great to have a plan until you go into the ring and get the first punch. We can be prepared for change and we can say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and walk down the path that is thriving. But then a condition occurs that we didn't expect. Do you run back down the path of survival, or do you stay the course to walk that path of thriving? It's a living and breathing thing. So from that, I'd like to bring in this notion of a metric. And I've been enamored by, my past. And when you go to an amusement park, all the sights, the sounds, the smells. If you're from Indiana, we do things like fried Twinkies and all sorts of interesting delicacies at the state fair. But I want to equate now, are you tall enough to ride the ride? Sandra, do you have a memory when you were a kid, the ride you wanted to ride and whether you were tall enough?
I actually don't have a memory of that. No, because I
Okay.
didn't grow up in the United States where there were carnival rides. So I'm a little
All
weird
right.
that way. Yeah.
No worries. Well, I remember for me, I remember that I remember I felt grown up when I could go with my uncle to ride Space Mountain at Disney World. I don't know how tall you needed to be then, but I felt like I had arrived. But now with this measure, going back to the touchstone concept, there is a line now that can be measured in the adaptability quotient, which we're going to get into right now, that helps you get a sense of how tall are you. And I'm claiming that in order to thrive in the world of change, there's a measure. So let's unpack that succinctly to get to the core of the content. So I love Peter Drucker that says, well, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And that's relevant for an organization as you're thinking about market expansion, successfully navigating an M&A, adopting a new technology, transfer of an ERP, or even just on a personal life, if you're looking to get fit, lose some weight, develop a new habit. These notions of a metric are incredibly valuable and relevant. So the science of adaptability quotient was founded over 7 years ago, a global thought leader by the gentleman named Ross Thornley and other global partners, particularly with the World Health Organization, realized that the rate of global change was so significant that we were at risk of leaving people, societies, and cultures behind. And that stemmed by pulling from over 100 scientifically validated resources to get a sense of what does this framework look like that is already proven and recognized through science, bring that into statistical rigor, through data analysis. And now as a valid instrument, we can show correlations in these three areas: ability, character, environment, to a score. So let's say the score, you range from 0, completely not adaptable. I've never seen anyone that low, up to 900. Right? So that's now the range. And as I've learned through the craft, the global average is 610. So let's just say that's the global average. And let's just say that's the line you need to be at in order to ride the ride. And I'm looking for a comment here. Scott says that I was excited when I was first tall enough to ride the first ride. It was the Beast at Kings Island. Yeah, me too. Scott, that was a scary one. And it's rough. You're right. Then I rode it and realized I wasn't ready for it. That's really transparent and brave. Thanks for that honesty. You're right. We walk down a path and thinking I'm ready for this. And like, oh, what did I get into? But I'm going to tie that back to the power of the measuring the adaptability, because the best assessments are going to call out your strengths. Because you will, in these areas, have strengths. And whether you recognize it or not, you can walk away from the experience and say, I've got this. I have grit. I can set a bold goal, walk that path, and not worry about myself giving up because I'm good at that. And then we always lead from an area of strength in life. Now, with this is the gift of the insight and the feedback to say, these are some of the areas which I'm not as capable. And with that, does it motivate you to do something about it? That really is the opportunity. So ability is how and to what degree I adapt. That is a skill, like working out at the gym. You can get stronger in that area with focus and application. Character is who adapts and why. Unlike a skill, it's more like a personality and a character. So how you were born through nature and how you were nurtured over time through your environment. So this is more of a, not a number, but a range. Are you more this style or more this style or somewhere in the middle? I'll show you examples of that. And the last but not least is the AQ environment, which is critical because it's the air we breathe. You live in the country, you're going to enjoy fresh air, probably have better lung health. You live in a smoggy industrial town and environment, you're breathing in soot and things that aren't really good for you physiologically, then it's going to affect who you are. And guaranteed, the culture and the environment that are in organizations either are helping or hindering your ability to be adaptable. So it's a critical third component. So in the interest of time, I'm going to keep us moving forward. And basically what that looks like is at, now another level down, we're going to measure each one of these abilities, ability, character, environment to get to that overall number. But now you're beginning to see underneath the surface, there's 15 subdimensions that are statistically validated to be relevant to have a positive correlation, or in some cases a negative correlation to your adaptability. And so this ends up being both a map and a mirror to understand self for forward progress. So in our closing minutes here, I'm just going to walk through at a high level, and I'm going to ask you, so a little heads up, what area, what subdimension in each one of these areas jumps out to you as being where you're most curious? What would you kind of feel motivated to learn more about? That'll help me prioritize which areas I go deeper in, or Sandra and I go deeper in as we move forward. But in the area of ability, again, these are strengths. Muscles strong, moderately, or underdeveloped. Grit is the ability to stay the course, play that game hard to the last second and not give up. I'm going to jump down to number 4. Resilience is that ability to bounce back. If I use a sports analogy, if you fumble the ball in the first quarter, can you bounce back in that moment so that second quarter you play better, you get the pep talk at halftime, you continue to play to win the game? But it's that bounce back ability. Well, grit is about going the distance. Mental flexibility is to, when you're walking down the path and you have a belief about what it's going to be and conditions change, can you pivot quickly? When the ground shifts, do you fall over or do you have enough flexibility? We're talking about mentally. Competing tensions of ideas, options A, B, and C. Can you stick with it to consider the range of outcomes? Mindset is heavily stepped in positive psychology, which is well recognized within the psychological space, which is a positive mindset. Can good things come from this? Do I have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? And then last but not least is a fascinating area of unlearning. We're all about taking things in. I'm a big input junkie. I love learning new things. But there comes a time where we have to empty our pockets. We have to realize, what is the old data, the old beliefs or biases that we're still hanging on to that no longer reflect reality. So based upon this quick flyover of ability, I'm curious to know what stands out for you in any one of these areas. Feel free to drop it in comments, but I'll keep going forward. I want to pause here because a lot of times as I speak and talk to engaged people, they talk about adaptability and agility almost interchangeably. And they're similar but uniquely different, and they compound each other. Ability is the strength of the muscle. Agility is that muscle in action, the body doing something. So to use a sailing reference, the adaptability is that hull, the ability to guide person from here to here, across the sea, across the channel or the river, and strong enough to withstand the tide. But the agility is the sail, it's the movement. It's that in action. So they're correlated, and adaptability, when coupled with agility, leads to high performance. But just to put that within your purview. Now, characters, who adapts and why. And I really just got emotionally caught up when I came across this image. I've never seen a football match or soccer in our country where, athletes with one leg are playing it. But how inspiring is that? So how we show up at emotional range and extroversion, are we introverted or extroverted? Are we hopeful or doubtful? Are we motivated to win, or are we motivated to protect? is critical and thinking style. Are we a big picture thinker, or are we more about details? Nobody's right or wrong here. It's just your style. So Sandra, when you and I get in a room, we show up to deal with change, we're going to behave differently. And that's pretty important, because you're not right. I'm not right. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong. We're just different. All right. Last but not least, the environment. It's the air you breathe. So does your company have your back? How's your emotional health? Is it a safe environment? Do you feel the ability to take risks and speak up? Regardless of the company support, what's the relationship dynamic in your team? Does your work environment provide the resources that you need to be stable navigating through change? And then what degree of work stress is there? Like a fine-tuned piano or an instrument, too loose doesn't play a nice sound, too tight offers a flat note. There's this healthy tension that's somewhere in the middle that needs to be assessed. So I realize this is fast, folks, but we are about to wrap up with what you do with this. So the final thought here is that hopefully you've realized exponential growth is real. Change is relentless, but perhaps the greatest innovation of all is for you, me, us, to become more adaptable than ever before. It's an invitation. So to help you with that, Sandra's going to walk you through just a couple of things. This is the growth equation. I like to put things in the math. These things, growth equals change, which can be scary. Change equals disruption, but plus opportunity. Opportunity is very much steeped in adaptability. And if you put adaptability and agility together, that's what helps high-performing teams. And if you're thinking about leading change and change success, you got to have a strategy, you got to have a process, tools, and leadership. But I believe the adaptability, the skill, the measure is the denominator that can either erode or significantly enhance your outcomes there. But Sandra, what are some of the guiding questions people should think about possibly over the weekend?
Okay, so these are the same types of questions that I had to ask myself, and Pete's a great coach and reflects, when you've taken the AQ assessment and then you have to think about the results, right? So when was the last time I learned something new, and how did I respond when it stretched me? I love learning new things, but sometimes the new things change my paradigm a little bit, and it's stretching. Do I typically see change as a threat, a challenge, or an opportunity, or all three? So like, what things do I see as a threat? What things do I react to as like, oh, that's a great opportunity? Know that about yourself, just like Scott was saying when he realized, oh, this one did not feel comfortable, right? Do I have people around me who support experimentation and growth, or do I feel pressure to play it safe? Thinking about your environment. So you'll see that those questions are really aligned with that. Like, what about your abilities? What about your character, your mindsets, right? And then what kind of environment? And sometimes we can't control the environment, but a lot of times we can do something about the environment that we place ourselves in. So take some time to reflect on that.
Great. And we wanted to offer you a range of things. Just pick one. Pick one to get started. Perhaps you want to begin to question, what score am I? Am I at 610? Am I above? Am I below? Begin to estimate that. Your own intellect and self-reflection can lead you there. Perhaps you're curious about wanting to actually measure your adaptability. Happy to help there. Let's talk offline if you're interested. Other things you can do is, think about writing an unlearning journal, whether you're familiar with journaling or not, but talking about specifically, what am I letting go of? Because that takes some reflection and you need to think about it. Think about other people that in your environment, either your work or in personal life, that are going through change, and form a little change champion circle where you can talk openly about the successes and failures. There's safety in numbers. It's a way community can get your back. Design a micro experiment. Just say, just one thing am I going to give a try this week? Set the bar low so you can, succeed and still learn from failure, because that's not really failure if you apply the learning. And then think about your environment. What's the one thing you can control that you're going to change, right? So please pick one. Folks, I want to thank you for your time today. Your time is valuable. I hope you feel it as an investment. I want to point forward to next Friday. We're going to go deeper into the AQ ability of unlearning. It's fascinating. They're all wonderful, but we want to, go deeper into this one area that captures your interest. Of course, we'll look at your feedback to prioritize future sessions, but please look for a follow-up. We've developed what I'll call somewhat of a newsletter, but a way to anchor some of this content and information to you via a newsletter. You'll get it via LinkedIn as a follow-up. You're welcome to interact with us there. There'll be a few more calls to action and things for yourself to consume. But with that, Sandra, why don't you wrap us up and wish us all a goodbye?
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. As Pete likes to say, and even has t-shirts and stickers, stay calm and adapt on. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.